Welcome back to the Inside Out Shift, the podcast where we talk about the identity shift, the mindset breakthroughs, and behind the scenes pivots of bold women who've left traditional careers to build something that feels aligned, impactful, and theirs. And I'm your host, Evgenia Baikova, business mindset strategist and Clifton Strengths expert. I help women build businesses that work and feel good without recreating the burnout they walked away from. And today, I'm joined by someone who knows how to make any stage and any room come alive. Sherry Mukasa Matemachani is a professional MC, lifestyle contributor, and creator of Hersonify, a platform that helps women boldly embody their future selves. With more than 15 years in healthcare, health, and women's wellness, she is now on a mission to transform retreats, events, and brand activations into spaces for real connections and lasting impact. And you may have seen her on Indiana CBS 4 or Fox 59, sharing her tips on self care and personal growth. Or maybe you've been lucky enough to be in the audience when she is hosting. Today, we're talking about courage, identity, visibility, and the power of creating what you once needed yourself. Sherry, welcome to the Inside Out Shift.
Thank you. I'm so excited to finally have this conversation with you.
Well, I know that you didn't leave your 9 to 5 by choice, but you've also chosen not to go back. And I think that's a decision a lot of women wrestle with. What gave you the clarity or maybe the courage to keep building instead of returning?
Well, you're right. It wasn't easy because the position I left, I was super excited about. It felt like I'd sort of arrived professionally. I'd been advancing slowly, and then I reached almost like a lull in a management position. And then I got this
Mhm.
director level role. And shortly after, well, not a little under a year, I had to take a leave. It was health related. I had to take a leave. And then while I was on that leave, there was a layoff during some of that period. Uh, so you're right. It was not
Yes.
by choice. Um, but at the same time, what I guess worked in my advantage was that I also had in the past been self employed. And I thought at some point I would get
Mhm.
back to that work. Even before COVID, I started teetering with some ideas. Then COVID hit, and my mind shifted. I wanted to focus on a different growth path and
Mhm.
something that seemed to make sense also for my family. But then this thing happened, and I at least had something to
Mhm.
fall back on because I had an understanding of myself and what I wanted differently. It's just the timing ended up being way sooner than I thought it would be.
Well, yeah, I got it. And that choice really seemed connected to Hersonify, right? The platform that you created for women to boldly embody the future selves. What does it mean to you personally? And how is it showing up in your own life right now?
It's so funny because with her sonify, I'm realizing really now something that I would have never thought about back even when I first thought of the idea of her sonify, which was maybe like
Oh, wow.
7 years ago, like a really long time ago, that the idea first popped in my mind as something that would be, oh, it'd be
Hmm.
kind of nice to do. Maybe I should explore it in and out, but nothing seriously, almost on the side, nothing that I even thought I would put like
Hmm.
a full time amount of attention to. So when I was on leave, I didn't even think about it at the time. It took probably almost a month into my leave for me to think about the Hersonify brand and idea and concepts because I was spending a lot of time at home, and that's not me. Even if I'm not feeling great, I have to get up. There's just I think I spent about 2 weeks just sort of watching a lot of television, not moving a lot, and it just did not feel good, like that daytime period. So I started creating things to make myself busy, reading and projects. And then I was reminded of what I'd started with Hersonify and sort of
Hmm.
dusted it off and started rebuilding from there. And you're right, it is about helping women kind of understand what they want for their future. but I was creating it with the mindset of younger women and thinking about how I reached the level really of where I was in my profession and sort of what I'd learned through that experience. So thinking about younger women, rising professionals, but then I also knew I wanted to do this thing of
Mm-hmm.
emceeing and speaking. And as I started exploring that, because emceeing, I honestly, it's something I was always affirmed in, but never ever thought it would be a real job. Almost like, you have someone, oh, I want to be
Mm-hmm.
an artist, I want to be an actress, I want to be on stages, kind of a concept. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people do it, but don't do it. Not the majority of people. But then I started getting online. I saw more and more folks doing it. I ended up getting a coach. And then what I had created for Hersonify, I started literally using for myself as I made this shift, this transition. And so now I'm literally using the tools and the resources as I get clearer on what I
Mm-hmm.
want for
Mm-hmm.
my future self and how I want to show up and how I am planning, because as opposed to being more mid-career, it feels like I'm starting at a very early stage, not
Mm-hmm.
unexperienced, but from a business mindset and knowing what it takes to run a business. I feel like there's a lot that I'm starting on the
Yeah,
ground
well,
with.
thank you for sharing. This is absolutely amazing. And I love that you are using your own experience to even build something for others, because you know that what I am noticing is that so many talented women, we're just forgetting about what we actually have in terms of experience, background, skills, and talents, right? And so many times we can find ourselves being preconditioned, right? So thank you for doing that for us. And of course, I encourage everyone to go there, find the website, and link will be shared with you today, so that you can actually experience what Sherry was just talking about. And Sherry, I know that you've led in nonprofit maternal and women's health, right? So you were a leader on that side, and you've been inside Fortune 50 healthcare company. That's a big range. And when you step back into entrepreneurship, what mindset shift did you have to make to approach it differently this time?
Let's see, my mindset shift. And that is a good question. So when I think about the mindset shift, I still look at it as growth. So it wasn't a big mindset shift because I still look at it as moving towards a greater version of what
Mm-hmm.
I'm capable of. And when I think about that, and even within my professional career through the nonprofit organizations, even the time I spent in corporate, it was still about how I'm contributing to something bigger than I am, but also growing
Mm-hmm.
professionally as well. And a lot of that still applies. I believe it's more so, though, you have to be very self-directed, even more so. Obviously, as you roll into leadership, there is even structure because you're still operating within
Mm-hmm.
the dynamics and sometimes the bureaucracy, the expectations of the organization. Whereas if you are operating on your own, you are you still have to make sure you are intentional, and you have to have a different level of focus. So if anything, it was probably just keeping
Mm-hmm.
myself motivated, because there wasn't anyone there who was directly telling me, oh, Sherry, you're doing a good
Yeah.
job, oh, this is really contributing to the team or
Mm-hmm.
to the bigger picture. Sometimes the payoff or the results
Mm-hmm.
you're not
Mm-hmm.
seeing as quickly, or even if there's room for improvement as well on the flip side. So
Yeah.
you're sort of navigating that on your own. And I think the biggest shift might be just getting comfortable and
Yes.
okay with
And I
that.
would agree, because I used to be a leader as well. And to me, leadership is as lonely as entrepreneurship. And you are right. Like when you are a part of a team, that's, I would say, more comfortable, right? Because you have your peers who will support you or who will provide you with the feedback. But when you are a leader, that's a rare thing. Well, you are lucky if your leader is like built that way, right? And you are getting not just encouragement, but kind of a mentoring relationship, that helpful. But yeah, I'm here totally with you that and probably you are right that those who were leaders, they know how to navigate entrepreneurship as well, right? Well, thank you. And you were talking about personify, Hersonify, that you needed that self, that thing for yourself, and that really struck me. And I'm just wondering what was missing for you back then, and what gaps does it feel now for women who are navigating the same transitions or ambition, or they're dealing with their identity.
So it's so funny because I think what might be the biggest difference is myself and where I am at this stage of life. And it looks a lot different. So versus just moving forward and some of that
Mhm.
structure, the traditional structure of your profession or your career field versus within entrepreneurship, but then also doing it, knowing what you know in
Mm.
midlife. So say at 47. So I'm, at 47, I'm thinking about the life I've had, the mistakes I've made, and then also not wanting to
Mhm.
repeat them. Having been self-employed, having had, bumps in the road, just even along my own professional path, and also having a lot more responsibility too. So 2 kids in college, a home, just my mom, who I'm also
Mhm.
trying to help take care of. So I think it's about just now it's about
Mhm.
being intentional, but also knowing what could go wrong and fighting through that fear because there is something to say about ignorance is bliss.
Yes, yeah.
Going without, going
Mhm.
with that freedom. So I don't have that same freedom. So I'm a totally different person. But at the same time, I think when I was younger, I knew I needed to learn more just because just being naive. I might have thought I knew a lot,
Mhm.
but I was still considered young. And there were so many older leaders just naturally pouring into me. Now I know to seek that out because even though I might be looked at as the leader, I actually have younger people coming to me asking for advice, people putting
Mhm.
me in
Mhm.
touch with younger folks who are trying to start off in their career in similar professions. And I look at myself pouring into others, but I know I need others to continue to pour into
Of
me if I
course.
want to be successful and how to look for that. So that's been sort of where I am, but then also kind of channeling that not younger self, but that piece of
Mhm. Mhm.
knowing that there is
Mhm.
a lot I don't know. So how am I continuing to grow and learn
Yeah,
in
like
this
you are applying
space?
all your lessons learned, right? So, yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Exactly,
And that's
exactly.
interesting because you know that those kinds of transitions often pull forward skills we didn't even realize would be so valuable. So, which of your corporate and nonprofit skills have become your superpowers as NMC or creator?
I'm actually going to go back to what I had started sharing a bit about, and just
Mhm.
learning and being a lifelong learner. So, what I really did like about being in corporate, so I have a couple of responses to that. But one thing that always comes to mind is the
Mhm.
professional development that you get and the growth opportunities if you're fortunate enough. I will say I've worked for some really great companies and organizations where they would pour into their staff and create opportunities for growth or for you to grow even within what you were doing. And then if doors opened earlier, you would be
Mhm.
better positioned to take on those other roles. So now I have kept that. Like that has been something that has I think I've been trained in a certain way to appreciate continuing education and development. Now I'm paying for it myself. I don't have a company that's sending me
Yeah.
here and there, or
Mhm.
that's paying
Mhm.
for this certification or that association membership. But I know it is something that I have to budget, and because that's how I even can be in
Yes.
spaces
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
can grow from other people. So I feel like I took a lot of that from my time in
Mhm.
more structured professional roles. That would be a big one. And did you ask also about leadership? Did you
Yes,
tie
yeah,
that
the
in?
leadership in being both in nonprofit and a huge corporation. So, what about that? How you are utilizing that knowledge and skills in your entrepreneurship?
So along with understanding just and how to tap into
Hmm.
continuous learning, another thing that comes to mind is how I'm
Mm.
approaching situations. So, for example, earlier in my career, when I was working with the organization, I was maybe like a project coordinator or assisting in a role. and my counterparts, there would be decisions that were made that affected us and how we worked. This new reporting, this new timeline, these change of caseload, whatever the case may be, new operating hours. And I'll admit, sometimes we would grimace at it. Sometimes we would, snark at it and have comments. Why are they doing this? Oh, this doesn't make sense. They don't understand us. No one's paying attention.
Very
They're doing
familiar.
what's right for us. And
Yes.
then exactly. So then when I was in the place where I'm sitting at those tables and part of
Mhm.
those conversations where decisions are made that affect entire teams, I start to look at how my approach to
Mhm.
judging others and judging how decisions are being made, because as you grow as a leader, there's so much that goes into account, and sometimes it can be difficult with messaging and how it
Oh,
gets
yeah.
communicated
Mhm.
down to others, and you try your best. Sometimes at the director executive level, decisions are made and you rely on, say, management to then you might
Mhm.
communicate more directly and then to get that message out. And of course there's broader messaging that's simplified, but so much goes into making and choices to move projects forward, to move companies forward, to move organizations forward. And so now, as an entrepreneur, I'm working on my own as I look at partnership, because again, we talked a little
Yeah.
bit about this earlier. If we're really going to grow, we
Mhm.
have to stay connected to others. I try to think about the bigger picture and how decisions are made, and if I want to partner, if I'm even if I'm hiring a vendor for
Mhm.
something that I'm doing, I'm trying to think about how this relationship or this partnership benefits them and how
Yes.
it's being communicated to
Mhm.
them, how
Mhm.
we are working together, how we go and find mutual benefit. So I feel like that's something when I think about leadership and the responsibilities as a leader, even if I'm
Mhm.
hiring someone short term or
Yeah.
for a small piece, I don't want to disregard their contribution or give them just the piece when maybe they need more
Mhm.
information to understand, and then ask them questions so I can understand from their
Yeah, it
perspective
seems
as
like,
well.
in coaching we have that think beyond the situation, and it seems like you you were embodying that, like, well, what and how that can be bigger, right? I love that. I love that. And talking
Mhm.
about transformations, you've shared before that your role used to define you, and now you define your role. That's such a big shift. So, what has that transformation taught you about self worth and visibility?
Speaking of which, I'm so sorry about my lighting. I'm going to turn this on and hope it helps for
Yeah,
now. And I'm so
yeah.
sorry. You want me
No,
to
that's
pause or you
fine.
want me to go ahead and answer?
Yep.
You still see me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to ask
Yes,
the
yeah,
question
yeah.
again so I answer it properly.
We are talking about transformations, right? And in our previous
Mhm.
conversation, you shared that your role used to define you, but now you define your role. And I was sharing with you that, well, this is a great shift, like a biggest shift that you can ever experience, right? So, what has that transformation taught you about visibility and self worth?
Yeah. So it's so funny because I shared earlier that when I had my last employed position that I had to leave and then was ultimately laid off from, I felt like it was such an accomplishment.
Mhm.
I was really proud, and I was proud of the work that we were beginning to do, and very excited about that. And I will admit, the title sounded
Yeah.
nice, right? So I was sort of wrapped up in that a little bit. It was definitely about the work, but of course, I'm human.
Mhm.
I'm going to be honest. It felt good to say, well, I've reached this level, even though I feel like I was doing very similar work in my last role,
Mhm.
if not more so, because I actually had a team. I've been there longer, and it was similar, but the title was
Mhm.
different, right? And so I look back now and I think I put value on that more so than I should
Mhm.
have. And so now I'm really not hung up on titles. And it's so funny, I'll tell you, we were out with friends a few weeks ago and we were getting introduced. And with this small group, it was a well-known establishment, and the CEO was at the table, and my friend's a lawyer, and there were a couple of physicians. There were maybe
Mhm.
like 8 or 9 of us. I'm working on my project, so so they were doing introductions, and the friend who invited us introduced everyone. And she introduced me as, so Sherry, she's the CFO of a women's brand, and she's doing some great work. And I was thinking, and I was actually curious to see like where this was going to go. I wasn't even inclined to interrupt. And no disrespect, I have nothing against anyone who's working toward that level. I mean, I've been
Mhm,
there, and
mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
saying that I wouldn't do it again. I not at all. But where I am right now, it just took me aback, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not the chief of anything, and I don't think I want to be referred to right now as the chief of
Mhm,
anything, because that's not what I'm focused on in this stage of
mhm,
my life. And so I'd let it define me before, but I'm not now. And it's not saying I don't lead, it's not saying I don't make impact, it's not saying that what I do does not have value or worth. It's just that's not something that I'm holding on myself
Yeah,
right
and
now.
that's different. And you know that in one of my episodes, when I was talking with Donna Marie Kazine, we also talked about that, how, we used to be defined by our roles, by our checks and salaries and promotions and all of that attributes of corporate or 9 to 5 world, and how it could be a trap for us switching the roles, moving from 9 to 5 or corporate worlds and becoming entrepreneurs. That's a big trap, and I can see that. And I'm noticing that people are still looking for that. Well, you can create whatever you want, like the role for yourself, a CFO, or I don't know, chief of whatever, chief of staff for your own organization. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, I could definitely be CFO, CEO,
Mhm.
COO,
Yeah, but
whatever.
well, is it defining you? That's the question. And yeah, and Sherry,
Exactly.
I know something else about you, because you know that you are a person who always build deep and meaningful relationship in every role, right? So how are you creating that same sense of connection or mentorship and support now as solopreneur?
Oh, I love this question so much, and I'm not going to get distracted by my poor lighting. Um, I'm just
Of
going to let
course.
that go, right? So, still staying connected, because it is so important, because
Mhm.
we're human beings, and we just cannot operate in isolation, especially if we want to grow. So staying connected, like I said, I'm paying for my own associations, membership, coaching, because one thing I did tell myself is that if I were to ever go into business again, and this was part of my decision making when I chose not to, aggressively look. I am working. I do also work part time on some other projects, but to also be working towards this, I said it has to be something I'd even be willing
Mhm.
to invest in. And with Hersonify, that's doing its thing, but the MCing is something that I am very intentional about, and I see a clear path. And so I have invested in a coach. I realize that even though I don't need a storefront, I don't have a ton of material, I have to
Mhm.
invest in myself, in my education. I'm buying, educational tools, again, the coaching, and it was such a good investment because it's connecting me to community. I'm now part of a community of other MCs. I have my MC bestie. We meet at least once a week
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
chat here and there as we encourage each other and really build each other up. And it's so important if we want to grow in
Yeah.
anything that we do it
Mhm.
in community. And we're willing sometimes to take the leap and invest if we believe
Mhm.
enough in that, so that we can go as far forward as possible and optimize
Yeah.
our
And
potential.
you know what, when I'm talking to my clients, usually I say this to them: your business can grow as much as you do, which is absolutely true, right?
Mm,
So when you stuck, your business will stuck. When you grow, when you change your habits, when you change your mindset, when you're obtaining some new skills, or you're coming back actually to who you are, your business is progressing,
yeah.
right? And thank you for mentioning business bestie. It is crucial. It's not just for you as a person, but it's for you as a business owner. That's fantastic, because having that person in your corner, well, it's even sometimes even better than a coach, right? Because, well, this person really understands what
Mhm.
are you going through. This person can provide you with a very direct feedback right between your eyes, and you will listen. You can cry on her shoulder,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And she will do the same for you, right? So I really appreciate you mentioning that. And I do have my business bestie, and you know her. This is Victoria, and we are having regular calls. We schedule that throughout the year, so we cannot skip that right now. Like, this is must.
That is awesome. Yes, I have awesome. I have to give a big shout out to Candace. Candace, the MC out there. And it's so funny. It's so great though that we live in a world where we can be in different parts
Yep.
of the country,
Hmm.
different parts of the world where we are now, because she's in
Yeah.
Denver, Colorado. And here I
Hmm.
am in
Hmm.
Indianapolis, Indiana, but we have been connected regularly. But I would not have had that if I wasn't part of this coaching program and really intentional in figuring out that
Yeah,
path
that's
forward.
that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And as we are talking about growing the business and investing in ourselves, if we look ahead, when you picture your business thriving, what does that actually look like for you? Not just in clients or income money, but in the kind of impact and influence you want to have.
Yeah, that's great. So I think about quality of life more so than, you're right, the impact, or the impact, but like how big the company gets
Hmm.
or how
Hmm.
much money specifically it's made. It's what I'm able to do. And I do start with thinking about, my family, how I can be there for them, creating those opportunities where the
Hmm.
flexibility is there. So that's what I'm saying: greater flexibility, being able to better support my mom, my children as well. And then two, um, but the
Hmm.
quality of work. And this is, I wouldn't get there without this, but this is also just, I want to say, like, instinctively important to me as well. The quality of work of what I give when I am representing a brand
Hmm.
or emceeing an event, how I am connecting with people. That's all part of, I would love to be viewed as
Hmm.
someone who excels in those areas and gives their best and creates amazing experiences, as well as helps women be that best version of themselves, partnering, connecting, finding ways to really expand
Hmm.
that impact. So it's maybe
Yeah.
not just here in Indiana, and finding ways to communicate in a more
Hmm.
massive way so that the
Yeah, of
messaging gets
course,
out
of
there.
course, and I can only agree with that. It's and I can speak for myself. It's about impact, right? It's about the quality of work. It's about those aha moments that I see in my clients. I'm getting messages from time to time from them. Oh, now I get it. Oh, now I know what to do. And that's interesting, and that's fulfilling, right? Like, this is why we are doing this. This is not just for money and to get your calendar be filled and busy. This is about a bigger thing, and probably that's why we left our organizations, right? So that we can do more and we can serve more people. And yeah, and
Absolutely.
well, you know how I'm usually wrapping up the thing, right? So if your business had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Mhm. My business. Oh my gosh. The theme song I have, when you ask that question, I think about myself and where I am, and I think about Eye of the
Ah!
Tiger. So, because I feel like I am my business in a lot of ways too, because of what I'm doing and where I am, right now. But then I also think about
Mhm.
women and the women that I might be reaching, and the fact that it's not just about rising women or rising professionals, but even those who are at this phase, midlife, who are maybe seeing
Mhm.
a transition or an opportunity to do something that they didn't do before, or that they've wanted to do and maybe they did but didn't do it fully and can revisit and do it again. So I think of Eye of the Tiger, and I will just
Yeah,
share. Can I just share with you a
sure.
part of the
Yes,
lyric
yeah,
that
yeah,
really
of course.
got me? I'm gonna, I'm gonna find it here. So And it says, the second stance, it goes, so many times, I almost want to sing it. So many times, no, I'm not going to do that. So many times it happens too fast. You trade your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the keep them alive.
Oh, yeah.
So
This is
that,
so good.
when I think about my community, the people that I've been connected with and the people I feel like tapping into and who seem to be impacted by the work I'm doing, a lot of that resonates.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I love your choice. Yeah, that's amazing, Son. Well, probably we can sing it together one day.
Let's do that.
Yeah, well, now we know that we are living not that far from each other, so we can definitely do that in practice.
Mhm.
Well, Sherry, thank you so much for sharing your journey and, well, not just milestones, but the mindset shifts and moments that have shaped how you work today. And for those who are listening us, if you want to connect with Sherry, see her in action, or learn more about her Hersonify, you will find all the links in the show notes. Go follow her, say hello, and see what she's creating next. And as always, thank you for joining me on the Inside Out Shift. If you enjoy this conversation, share it with a friend who needs to hear that, or leave a quick review. It's the best way to help more women find these stories. And until next time, keep leading from the inside out.